Welcome to Boise Public Library's Fairytale Storytime. My name is Odessa and I work at the library at Collister. Today I'm going to tell you the story of Little One Eye, Little Two Eye, and Little Three Eyes from the Brothers Grimm. Once there was a woman who had 3 daughters. Her oldest daughter was named Little One Eye, for she had one eye in the middle of her forehead. Her middle child was named Little Two Eyes, because she looked like everyone else. And her youngest daughter was Little Three Eyes, because she had 3 eyes, one also in the middle of her forehead. Because Little Two Eyes looked like everyone else, her mother and sisters despised her and would taunt her by saying, "You there with your 2 eyes, you're not special, for you look like everyone else. Get out of our sight." They gave her old, ragged clothes and fed her only what was left on their plate, and found excuses to send her away from the house so they would not have to look at her. They did this, in fact, for they were very jealous of Little Two Eyes, who was loving and had a kind heart. Little Two Eyes' only escape was when she took their family goat out to the hillside to eat. On this particular day, Little Two Eyes was very hungry because her sisters had given her nothing from their plates. She sat down in the grass, buried her head in her hands, and began to cry. When she looked up, an old woman stood near her. "Why are you crying, dear child?" the wise old woman asked. "Why can't I cry?" Little Two Eyes sobbed. "Because I have 2 eyes just like everyone else. My mother and sisters say I'm nothing. They give me old, ragged clothes and only the food left on their plates. And today there was nothing, so I'm still very hungry." "Little Two Eyes, I will tell you something that will keep you from being hungry ever again," the wise old woman said. "Say to your goat, 'Little goat, bleat, little table rise,' and a neatly laid table will appear before you with the most delicious food on it, so you can eat as much as you like. When you are satisfied, say to your goat, 'Little goat, bleat, little table away,' and the table will disappear before your eyes." As the old woman said this, she faded from sight. Little Two Eyes looked around her and thought, "I must be very hungry indeed to be seeing such things, but I am too hungry not to try what the old woman suggests." So she looked at her goat and said, "Little goat, bleat, little table rise." And there before her stood the most lovely little table, covered in a lace cloth with a plate and a silver knife, fork, and spoon. There was also the most delicious food she had ever seen, piping hot as if it had just come from the kitchen. Little Two Eyes ate and ate and ate, and when she had had enough, she said the words the old woman had given her, "Little goat, bleat, little table away," and in that instant the table and all that was on it disappeared. What a lovely and easy way to clean up, thought Little Two Eyes, and she was quite happy. That evening, when she came home with her goat, she found a small dish with some crusts of bread set aside for her, but she did not touch it, for she was not hungry. The next day, when she went out with the goat, she let the bits of leftover breakfast remain uneaten. The first and second time her sisters took no notice, but when it happened every day for that week, they began to question the food left on the plate. "What's up with Little Two Eyes?" they exclaimed. "She used to eat everything given to her, and now she's leaving her food." In order to discover the truth, the sisters decided that Little One Eye should go with Little Two Eyes when she took the goat to the hillside and see what she did there, and if anybody brought her anything to eat and drink. So the next time that Little Two Eyes went with the goat, Little One Eye walked up to her and said, "I will go with you and see that you are taking proper care of our goat." Little Two Eyes saw what Little One Eye was planning. When they came to the hillside, Little Two Eyes said, "Come, Little One Eye, come and sit down and I will sing you a song." Little One Eye was very tired from the long walk and the heat from the sun, so she sat down as Little Two Eyes began to sing, "Are you awake, Little One Eye? Are you asleep, Little One Eye?" And then Little One Eye fell fast asleep. When Little Two Eyes saw that Little One Eye was sleeping, she said to her goat, "Little goat, bleat, little table rise," and seated herself at her table and ate and drank until she was satisfied. When she was finished, she called to her goat, "Little goat, bleat, little table away," and instantly the table disappeared. Little Two Eyes woke up Little One Eye by saying, "Oh, little One-Eye, you say you wanted to watch the goat, and yet you have fallen fast asleep. The goat could have run all over the world by now. Come on, let's go home." When they got home, little One-Eye could not tell her mother and sister what had happened, and just said, "Oh, I fell asleep." The next day, the mother said to little Three Eyes, "This time you go and see if anyone is bringing food to little Two Eyes." As little Two Eyes was leaving with the goat, little Three Eyes ran up to her and said, "I will go with you and see that you are taking proper care of our goat." Little Two Eyes saw what little Three Eyes was planning. When they came to the hillside, little Two Eyes said, "Come, little Three Eyes, come and sit down and I will sing you a song." Little Three Eyes was very tired from the long walk and with the heat from the sun, so she sat down as little Two Eyes began to sing. "Are you awake, little Three Eyes?" But instead of saying, "Are you asleep, little Three Eyes?" she sang carelessly, "Are you asleep, little Two Eyes?" And then she went on singing, "Are you awake, little Three Eyes? Are you asleep, little Two Eyes?" So that the two eyes of little Three Eyes fell asleep, but the third did not, because it was not sung to in the song. Little Three Eyes was aware of the power of the song and shut her third eye, just enough to peek through it and pretend to sleep. When little Two Eyes thought little Three Eyes was fast asleep, she said her little sentence, "Little goat bleat, little table rise," and ate and drank heartily. And when she finished, she said, "Little goat bleat, little table away," and the table disappeared. Little Three Eyes had seen everything. At home, little Three Eyes told her mother and sister, "I now know why that horrible wretch does not eat. She says to that little goat out there, 'Little goat bleat, little table rise,' and a table appears before her covered with the very best food, so much better than we have here. And when she's finished, she says, 'Little goat bleat, little table away,' and everything disappears. I have seen it all exactly. She tried to put me to sleep with her little song, but she forgot to sing to my third eye." The envious mother boiled with rage and cried out, "Shall she be better off than we are?" and grabbed the butcher's knife and struck down the goat so that it fell down dead. When little Two Eyes saw this, she was filled with grief and ran away to the hillside. As she threw herself into the grass, the old wise woman stood near her once again. "Little Two Eyes, why do you cry?" "Why can't I cry?" she answered. "The goat who I said your words to has been killed by my mother, and now I don't know what to do." The wise old woman said, "Little Two Eyes, I will give you some good advice. Go beg your sisters to give you the heart of the goat and bury it in the ground before the house door. It will turn out lucky for you if you do." Then she disappeared. Little Two Eyes dried her tears and went home to beg her mother and sisters for the goat's heart. "Please, dear sisters, please give me the heart of the goat. I won't ever ask for anything else. Just please give me the heart." They laughed at her and said, "You can have that." Little Two Eyes took the heart and buried it quietly before the house door. The next morning stood the most beautiful tree in all the world, with leaves of silver and fruit of gold hanging from the branches. The sisters and their mother did not know how the tree had appeared there, but little Two Eyes knew it had grown from the heart of the goat, for it stood just where she had buried it. Their mother said to little One-Eye, "Climb up this tree and gather us some fruit." Little One-Eye climbed up, but when she wanted to grab the fruit, the branch sprang out of her hands. This happened every time, so that she could not gather a single thing from the tree, try as hard as she could. Then the mother said to little Three Eyes, "You can see better with your 3 eyes. Climb up there and bring us down some fruit." So little One-Eye scrambled down and little Three Eyes climbed up. But little Three Eyes fared no better than her sister. As she would reach out to grab the fruit, the branches would spring out of her hands and she would always grasp the empty air. Little Two Eyes went up to her mother and said, "Can I try? Perhaps I can do better." "You," cried her sisters, "with your 2 eyes, what can you do?" But as little Two Eyes climbed up, the golden fruit did not spring away from her, but dropped off into her hand. She was able to gather one after the other and brought a whole apron full to her mother. Her mother took them from her, and instead of her sisters or mother behaving better towards little Two Eyes, they were only envious and behaved still more cruelly to her. One day, as they stood together under the tree, a young knight came riding by on a fine horse. The two sisters saw the knight and shoved little Two Eyes under a great cask that stood just by the tree. The knight, who was actually a prince, looked up at the tree and asked, "To whom does this beautiful tree belong to?" "The person who gives me a branch shall have whatever they want." Little One Eye and Little Three Eyes threw themselves before the rider, exclaiming that the tree belonged to them and they would break off a branch. But try as they might, it was of no use, for the branches and the fruit sprang back every time they would reach toward the tree. "It's very wonderful that the tree belongs to you, but you do not seem to have the power to gather anything from it," the prince stated. But they insisted that the tree was theirs. As they spoke, Little Two Eye rolled a few golden fruits from under the cask that she had stowed away in her apron. They rolled right to the feet of the prince. As he felt the fruit touch his shoe, he was astonished and asked where they had come from. Little Two Eyes came out of the cask and walked toward the prince. "It was I who rolled the fruit to you," exclaimed Little Two Eyes, "for this tree is mine." "Can you gather a branch for me?" the prince asked Little Two Eyes. "Yes, I can," answered Little Two Eyes, and she climbed up and easily broke off a branch with its silver leaves and golden fruit and handed it to the prince. Then the prince said, "Little Two Eyes, what do you want for it?" "Oh," answered Little Two Eyes, "please take me away from this place. I suffer only hunger and thirst and sorrow from early morning till late at night. If you would take me with you and free me, I should be happy." So the prince lifted Little Two Eyes onto his horse and took her home to his father's castle. There he gave her beautiful clothes, food, and drink, as much as she wanted. Soon the two grew to love each other and were married. The wedding was celebrated throughout the kingdom. When Little Two Eyes was taken away by the prince, the two sisters envied her very much. "The silver and gold tree is ours now," they thought, "and even though we cannot gather any fruit from it, everyone will still want to come and see it and praise us for it." But the next morning the tree had disappeared and all their hopes with it. Little Two Eyes lived happily for a very long time. Once, two poor women came to her castle and begged for food. Little Two Eyes looked at their faces and recognized her sisters, Little One Eye and Little Three Eyes, who had fallen into such poverty that they had nothing left between them. Little Two Eyes welcomed them and took them in, for they begged forgiveness and meant it. The end. Thank you so much for joining me today for our fairy tale story time. And remember, for more virtual content or free digital resources, please visit boisepubliclibrary.org. Have a good day. Thank you. Bye.